Thank you. Continue readings from Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Continue readings from Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, Text 9. Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tattvataha Chakvadeham Punarjanma Naitimameti So Arjuna. Janma, birth, karma, work, cha, also, may, of mine, divyam, transcendental, evam, like this, ya, anyone who, veti, knows, tattvata, in reality, chaktva, leaving aside, deham, this body, puna, again, janma, birth, na, never, eti, does attain, mam, unto me, eti, does attain, sa, he, Arjuna, O Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take its birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Please repeat if you wish. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. 6th verse being, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body, and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 533, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam achyutam anadam anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in the Vedas, Purusha Buddhini Upanishad, Ekodevo Nitya Lila Nurakto, Bhakti-vyapi Ridya Antaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita, personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman, the Personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly. And consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. I'm going to repeat that. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman, the Personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion: Tam eva vidvati mrityumeti nanya panta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Svetasvatara Upanishad 3.8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation, simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad-Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up, mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. Om Gandimanandasya Jananjaya Shlagya Chakshum Vidamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanyamaro Vishnam Staptamin Bhutale Svayam Rupagaram Dadati Svapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhagavana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation repeated. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So there's so many ways to try to realize the absolute truth. Surround yourself with fires in the hot summer sun. Or in the winter time, perform severe austerities by submerging oneself in the water up to one's neck. There's so many various things. Asceticism of so many different types. So many penances are listed in the Vedas and so forth and so on. Not to mention what the impersonalists go through. Neti, not this, not that. And if you don't go mad from doing that, then I guess all this helps eventually to make some progress. But, one who reads Bhagavad-Gita, you know, the essence of the Vedas, can understand the essence of all those millions of verses. And then one can easily choose. You get a full understanding. It's not like you're missing something. Prabhupada says all scriptures are contained in the Bhagavad-Gita, and it contains other knowledge that other scriptures don't have. So, you know, it's intelligent to take time to read Bhagavad-Gita. It's not difficult. Just have to be a friend and a devotee of Krishna to understand it. And then knowledge is revealed. And we can understand, oh, I can just take the super elevator to the topmost platform. It's an instant elevator. Just by accepting Krishna, you are the Supreme. You are the same Supreme Brahman, the Personality Godhead. Instantly liberated. And you enter into the association of the Lord by engaging in Krishna's service. And then, as what is it? Tashi Krishna Namari Namavet Graham Indriya Sivamuke Jivado Swam Rasaram, something like that. That the blunt material senses and cannot understand the transcendental qualities of the Lord's name, fame, pastimes, etc. But when one is awakened to Krishna consciousness, by associating with devotees, one begins to render service by using his tongue, chanting the holy name of the Lord and honoring Krishna's prasadam. And thus, he begins to understand, his tongue becomes purified, and he begins to understand who Krishna really is. One actually realizes Krishna's name, fame, qualities, pastimes. Of course, you can read them in Krishna book. Great scholars have read Krishna book, 10th canto, so many things. I've spoken with many of them. I would go and distribute books at the universities, and we have to do this kind of undercover, so when in some places, so when they catch on, I go into the philosophy religion building and knock on professors' doors at that time and talk to them and encourage them to take the books. Now, honestly, some are interested, and some are very respectful and somewhat devotional, but many are atheistic, which is so bizarre to me. When I first realized that, it was such a shock. In fact, I would get mad and express my mad upsetness to them. Not so productive. But yeah, how can a philosophy professor be an atheist? It's bizarre. But philosophy, as taught in the US, is not really philosophy. A lot of people take philosophy just because it's an easy elective to get into law school. And religion, people find it like curious, but they're not like interested in practicing so much. So from an intellectual, academic perspective, I had somebody studying Vedic studies, his PhD, and we had a discussion. He was irate with me. He studied the Upanishads through and so many other things, and he was really upset. And he finally concluded, do you guys know what a Smurf is? You know what Smurf is? The blue little cartoon character? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, he said, I can't believe you've made God into a Smurf. That was his conclusion, and he stomped on, you know, after trying to convince this person. You know, without being a devotee and a friend of Krishna, you're just not going to realize this knowledge. You can memorize the Bhagavad-Gita front to back, but if you're not a devotee, a friend of Krishna, you're not going to realize anything. I mean, honestly, you're going to make some progress because you're coming in contact with Krishna, but not like the progress. You can get your 18 PhDs from Harvard and Oxford and wherever else, and you won't know as much if you're not a devotee and a friend of Krishna. You won't know as much as that bhakta that just joined, who knows nothing, who's illiterate, who's for a month in the bhakta program. You won't know as much as him. It's a fact. I've seen it. It's a trip. Krishna, one who has complete faith in Guru and Krishna, all the purports of the Vedas are revealed, right? Yasya deve para bhaktir, itade deve tatagaro, yaite katitahi artha, prakashante mahatmanaha. Shvetastha Upanishad 6:23. It's a fact. So, we should realize that that's an essential part of the puzzle, to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Otherwise, you just make this really weird thing that devours you. Actually, you actually create something that just devours you. It's like creating an atomic bomb and you kill yourself with it or something like that. Sometimes people make bombs and they blow themselves up. It's kind of like that. This is can be the most powerful thing, right? The most sublime, king of education, secret of all secrets. What's that? 9.2. Oh God. Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Paramuttamam. Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Paramuttamam. Yeah. Forgot. This knowledge is the king of education, the secret of all secrets, purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, is the perfection of religion and is everlasting and is joyfully performed. Bhagavad-Gita 9.2. Rajavidyam Rajaguyam Pavitram Uttamam Pajakshavagyam Yam Yam Susukam Kartamavyam. There we go. You get direct perception. Direct, and things become self-evident. Chant Hare Krishna and see the pastimes. Krishna reveals them to you from within the television in the heart. Probably said actually what we're trying to do is just repair the television set in the heart. That's what we're trying to do. That's what Krishna consciousness is. That's what he says. Krishna consciousness is simply repairing the television set in the heart. It's staticky. But as we chant and take up the process properly, that picture becomes clear. And that picture's clear. Krishna is clearly on that picture. Krishna reveals everything. This is what human life is meant for. Human. I was told Hu is another name for God. So this human form is meant for realization of God. Not just book academic knowledge, but realizing, becoming realized. And one can easily say, oh yes, I know this pastime or this pastime of Krishna. So many people know the pastimes of Krishna, but they don't think it's the way Prabhupada describes it. Yes, you are Krishna, Krishna means this and that, so many different things. And Mother Yasoda just is this and that, all kinds of various interpretations. But to know Krishna as he is, Bhakti mama janati avam jasma tattva 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 visite tarantaram. One can understand me as I am as the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by devotional service. So, understanding Krishna as he is, we do realize, and it's so blissful, as I mentioned earlier, this knowledge is sublime. So, Prabhupada said the most blissful thing you can do, paraphrasing, is hearing the pastimes of Krishna. Nothing gives the soul more ecstasy than the hearing of Krishna's pastimes. That's what he wrote or said. Nothing gives the soul more ecstasy than the hearing of Krishna's pastimes. If this is a situation, then we should regularly, daily, hourly, whatever, every second, remember Krishna's pastimes. It's okay. We can go mad. We can pretend we're Krishna and perform the pastimes of Krishna. Actually, I don't know if that'd be good at least at my stage. But the gopis did it. They thought they were Krishna. They performed the pastimes of Krishna. Yeah. So you know, Nityananda, he performed the pastimes, his pastimes with Krishna in his various incarnations, like in Ram Leela, and so many things, so many plays we can put on. We can ask instead of, right, my devotees are always absorbed in sharing each other. What is that? 10, 9. Matchita Satambhava ends with Tushanticha Ramanticha. Matchita Matgadapana Bodhyanta Paraspatam Katayatam Vastrutya Tushanticha Ramanticha. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So we can, instead of having the energy drop when we meet one another, just like that great Brahmana, I think it was Dattatreya, I can't remember, Visvanath Chakravarti Thakur and another one, Acharya, said that the Brahman in the 11th canto that spoke with the King Yati, is, or King Yadu, I forgot the name, was an incarnation of Krishna, and he spoke about, he had many masters, he learned wherever he went, and one was that a gal was alone in her house, parents went away or something, and some men came to visit her wanting to marry her, or considering it or whatever. So she went in the kitchen to cook, and she had a bunch of bracelets on, and as she was husking the rice or whatever, she noticed the bracelets making noise, and then she thought, well, if I don't have a servant, and they know that I'm husking this myself, they'll know that I don't have a servant to do the work, so therefore they'll think I'm very poor, and maybe they won't want to marry me. So she only left 2, broke the rest of them, left 2 on each wrist, and then continued, but still they started clanking. So she took 1 off of each arm, and then there was no more clanking. So similarly, when many people get together, not necessarily devotees, but this is the general tendency in the world, is they make a lot of unnecessary noise. And this unnecessary noise saps the energy that's needed to realize Krishna, that's given to us in this human form solely for that purpose, to realize Krishna and go back home to Godhead. And then it's described, even with two bracelets are making noise, not as much noise, but still when 2 people get together, the general tendency in the world, not necessarily nice devotees, is to talk about unnecessary things and to engage in mild quarrel or disagreement or whatever the word was. Not quarrel. And so, of course, we're encouraged to associate with devotees as this necessary step in our Krishna consciousness. But we can try to make a concerted effort to always, what was it? Thoughts of my devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always conversing with one another, with me about, to one another, conversing about. So we can talk about the pastimes of Krishna. We can ask questions like, what is your favorite pastime of Krishna? Instead of complaining about the weather, we can go, what is your favorite pastime of Krishna? This way we can be engaged in hearing the pastimes of Krishna, reciting the pastimes of Krishna, and experiencing, even with others, anytime we want. Hopefully they will stay on that platform, Krishna Katha, and we can experience the greatest ecstasy alone by reading the books, and with each devotees by sharing the knowledge in the books. Alright, so this way we can remember the pastimes of Krishna. And nothing is more blissful. You might, I don't know how many times I've read and heard the Krishna book. Probably 300 times. And it doesn't get, it only increases, right? Spiritual life is ever increasingly more blissful. So, and there's Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's Chaitanya Bhagavat. There's so many literatures where we can hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality Godhead. And even if you read the same pastime in the same Krishna book every day, it would still be ever more blissful. This is what we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we see, Bhishma Dev is talking about knowledge, and it leads to, yes, this is where it's at, hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna. Then you got Queen Kunti, same thing. That this is where it's at. This is the topmost thing. Hearing, and you have all these great personalities. Think Prithu, saying the same thing. So many beings saying the same thing. All these really amazing personalities, all saying the same thing. That hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna. And this way, by remembering these pastimes, right? 8-5, 8-5, yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Antakale chamameva smam gvakalevam yat tratra samshaya yati nat tratra samshaya. Anyway, one can understand, anyone who remembers me at the time of death at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So, this is really the exam we're really trying to pass. Antakale chamameva smam gvakalevam yam prayati samadbhavam yati nast atra samshayaha. So whatever state of being, the next verse, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O the son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So it's the most sublime practice. It's the most blissful, the greatest ecstasy. Why suffer needlessly? Why? It's only false ego that would want to do that. Or ignorance. Just don't know better. But if we read Bhagavad-Gita, we know better. And then just be false ego. I got to stand on my head for an hour, in order to, have the potency to do A, B, or C. I mean, if it's in relation with hearing the pastimes of Krishna, great. Otherwise, what are we doing? If it helps to spread the pastimes of Krishna to others, I can get 50 more books out. If I do these little austerities more a day, then great, okay. Otherwise, what are we doing? So, yeah, and sharing these pastimes. Actually, I don't think anything gives me more ecstasy than distributing a big, fat, hardback Krishna book to somebody. I think that's the highest high I've gotten in my life. It's getting out a lot of Krishna books. Wow. It's such a good feeling. Because a lot of these people, they can't handle hardcore philosophy. I mean, they can if they want to, but not so inclined. But a nice story, Krishna's pastimes, everybody likes that. Kids like it, adults like it, you know, people that aren't into reading like it, you know, people that aren't, you know, so philosophically inclined like it, people that are philosophically inclined like it. It's good for everybody. Prabhupada says it's the most palatable form of enlightenment. You know, it's the most tasty meal. There's no trouble with it. All we have to do is just, and once we start doing it, we go, wow, this is nectar. So, reading, hearing, and chanting the pastimes of Krishna. Always worth doing. There's no tax. It doesn't tax you at all. It's not like I have to go drive an hour to read the Krishna book. You put it on your phone. You can listen to it. You can read it. Or whatever. You can get the book. There's no trouble for the mind or body. It doesn't affect you adversely psychologically. It's only full-on topmost win every time. So, and one who knows these the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. And not only is it blissful here, but hereafter we get to go enter into Krishna's pastimes, and you know, in our next birth, you know, go where Krishna's having his pastimes, so that actually becomes like a full-on thing, and then we get to go to Goloka Vrindavan, or wherever your preference spiritual planet is. So why not go for it regularly? There's so many incarnations. Advaitam Achyutam Ananta Rupam. I believe it's that verse that, where it's, maybe not actually. It's not, well, there's one verse in there in the Brahma Samhita where it describes that there's a candle can light another candle, which can light unlimited candles, and it'll all have the same flame power. So that's like Krishna, and that original flame candle power didn't diminish. That's the power of Krishna. You can have unlimited expansions, all with the same power, and yet the source, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Savayam, the original personality of Godhead, does not diminish in his own power by doing that. Right? So that's seriously profound. And so all these other incarnations, you know, Ram, Shingadev. But Krishna is described as like the full moon. And these other incarnations are the moon also. But as Rupa Goswami, or is it, I'm sorry, Jiva Goswami, I believe, describes it as these other incarnations, the moon, but they're not the full moon. And then you get a half moon, a quarter moon. They still light up, but not like Krishna Lila. Not to the same extent. So, ultimately, we want to know all about Krishna's nature of his appearance as Krishna, and sorry about this, I won't even comment because I don't know how to speak it perfectly accurately, so can stop there for questions. Any comments or questions?
they release more and more. And just like Krishna saying, whoever knows my birth and my appearance, so when we are sticking to this thing, to Krishna's pastimes only, we don't give it, we just go on the net and find out different things and we speak so many different things. But if you stick on that one, just like today morning, there was a pastimes of the dowry. So dowry, there was so many things you can speak from Krishna. But person find out something different and speaking so many different things which are not connected to Krishna. So we should see that everything should be connected to Krishna. Just like this pastimes you have read, very nice to hear. But if you leave this one and speak something from your net and find out something different between them, so it doesn't give that pressure, which pressure we are looking for. The pressure is only when you hear more and more about Krishna. So this is the thing we should understand, that more and more we should see that how we can glorify Krishna. In the material world there are so many things we can glorify that one also, but that will not relate us and not they will give you any benefit from that. But here we see when we only speak about Krishna, we get benefit. So Krishna is saying that like this, when we think about Krishna and we are sure that Prabhupada is saying that you will go back and back. Right. Any comment on that?
Thanks for sharing that. That's nice. That's the ideal, yes. Just like, was it Nimai Pandit that taught a subject in school and had it all related with Krishna. And there's a book written about that, so that you're learning a subject only by hearing and glorifying Krishna. So that's the ideal, yeah.
So we see Prahlad Maharaj, he is always glorifying Lord Vishnu. He is the son of a demon, but you see how much he got of Narad Muni, and he is glorifying Hare Krishna. He is not debating from that instruction which he had received from Narad Muni.
Yeah, Jai. Perfectly said.
Just like we have received our knowledge from Prabhupada and this one, so we should stick to that one, that what Prabhupada has given us. And if he finds we can speak more than 1 hour on this subject, on each shloka you can speak on more. Just I remember in the 90s I went to Bhubaneswar. That time Govind Maharaj, he was speaking on Sadhu Sangha. He spoke more than 3 hours, 3.5 hours he spoke on that small subject, Sadhu Sangha. Just relating only to the Krishna and how we should make Sadhu Sangha. So that is the glorification. You can speak more and more. You will not get tired. But if you think something, find out something, and you will see now when the time is going over, I have spoken so many things about mundane things. Yeah. So this is the thing we should understand. We should always be observed in Krishna consciousness.
Sure.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I've totally heard you, and I totally appreciate your comment, but I would like to interject that there's room for not much of, but like Prabhupada would occasionally interject some things on the apparently mundane plane. So-and-so that's not a ISKCON devotee said, somebody famous, but occasionally, but he wouldn't extrapolate greatly with it. Yeah. Just to build, to build a bridge maybe with the group, or something along to help people have faith in the Bhagavad-Gita, like that. So there's room for that, but Prabhupada didn't use that card too often. Yeah.
In a short, you can give some example. That's okay. But if you elaborated for half an hour, same thing, then that will disturb us.
Yes, that's why I appreciate what you're sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the problem with like Wikipedia. It's not written by a devotee. It's dry and mundane, right? Like, this like if you I won't even say it. I don't encourage you to do this, but if you look up one of our great personalities of the past, and Encyclopedia Britannica, it's severe blasphemy, actually. I mean, it's their perception of things. It's just very mundane, and it doesn't bring the nectar, the elixir, and that we want to drink at every moment that gives us that life of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Alright, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura, Hare Krishna.